In Commander, the phrase "the combos" has been what defines the format and its community. As a result, this phrase is used in all kinds of situations. Goblin Lackey into Goblin War Chief, the combos. Brainstorm into Fetchland, the combos. Maelstrom Wanderer into Time Warp, the combos. Maelstrom Wanderer is an 8-mana 7/5 elemental powerhouse from the Planechase 2012 set. But just like most commanders, this guy has a pretty crazy ability. Firstly, he says that creatures you control have haste, so when you cast this guy, you can go ahead and get in for some nice general damage. But his defining ability is his Cascade.
Oh, before we go on, let's make sure we all understand how this works. This ability is a little crazy. Basically, you cascade twice of Maelstrom Wanderer's mana cost, with the first cascade resolving completely, the second cascade resolving completely, then Maelstrom Wanderer resolving completely.
You will love this deck if you like to ramp into big spells, hit your opponent 3 times, and cast board wipes, but you may not enjoy him if you don't like the fact that he's expensive, random, commander-centric, and not really able to interact directly with your opponent. The basic strategy is ramping. This guy is pretty expensive, so we want to make sure we hit as many ramping spells as possible. The early turns of the game are full of mana rocks and growth effects. This leaves you open during the early game, but we're in it for the long haul. And once you reach 8 mana, you'll be casting 3 spells, the 7/5 haster and 2 other spells that will usually determine the rest of the game. This is where the random factor comes into play. Playing Wanderer is much like playing slots at the casino. You just never know if you're ever going to hit, but if you do, you'll win big. Jockelhops, Devastation, Wildfire, Destructive Force, Burning of Zine Yi, All is Dust, and Time Warps are all cards you hope to hit, and usually after hitting a board wipe and a Time Warp, the game is already won. This deck is super explosive and has a very Doomsday Clock-ish kind of feel to it. And since he's a big 7/5 with haste, you'll only need 3 turns of direct hits to end the game. The Wanderer does have a few weaknesses though. The prime suspects being turn 4 Land Destruction, Stony Silence, Nevermore, Teferi Mage of Zhalfir, Price of Progress, Gaddock Teague, and Null Rod. Against these cards, the game becomes a little rocky, but not all is lost. Wanderer has access to many outs that can bring you right back into the race. The standard game for Wanderer is unique because even though you'll be facing a large variety of commanders and strategies, the overall principles will stay constant.
Phase 1.
Your starting hand is really important, more so than most other decks. Things that you want to see in your opening hand are at least 2 lands and hopefully a cheap mana rock. Make sure your hand isn't cluttered with big spells, and if you have multiple bigger cards, I suggest pitching those in the hopes of finding more ramp or more land. During the first few turns of the game, you'll want to play as many cards as possible, and hopefully set up for a turn 4 Maelstrom Wanderer.
Phase 2.
By this time, you will be ready to cast Wanderer. Let the Wheel of Destiny spin and hopefully the dust will settle in your favor. Even if you don't cast him, you should be able to hard cast most any spell in your deck. Things like Time Warps are easy to blast off, but even things like Wildfire are great, because even though you'd lose lots of your lands, you'd still have a bed of rocks to fall back on.
Phase 3.
This is the late game. This is when the fun happens. Games can be insane and usually come to a strange standstill. And if this happens, killing Wanderer could be very helpful since your mana pool is so large that you could just cast cards like Devastation and then cast Wanderer again. So all in all, this deck is super fun and perfect for new players of the format that want to play something fast, explosive, and exciting. There are a few different ways you can build this deck. This one that I'm presenting here is a little more combo-centric, but there are a few creature-based builds of Maelstrom Wanderer and some pretty cool hybrids. But if you're interested in building the particular deck that I've been using, you can go ahead and check out the link in the description box down below. Also be sure to check out the Duel Commander website so you can learn more about this awesome and fascinating format. Thanks so much for the thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel for some more awesome Magic the Gathering videos. But until next time, keep shuffling, Magic players.